See, one without the other isn't any good, and oh, I knew he was going to do that. He don't need Jannetty. Are you kidding? And oh my God! Right through the window of the barber shop. Jannetty tried to dive through the window to escape. Did you see that? Are you blind? What an act of cowardice. What a legendary exchange between Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, the best commentary duo of all time, arguably the greatest manager of all time, and Gorilla Monsoon, such a great mainstay of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and then the WWF, President Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan's crushing line during his Hall of Fame speech. So one thing missing, I wish Monsoon was here. They are both very, very sorely missing. Shawn Michaels' career would go on and on and on, and Marty Jannetty's career would go on, but it would go on in a few different directions. Boy, would it ever. I'm John Renton with my review of Dark Side of the Ring, The World According to Marty Jannetty. Boy, this was a goddamn trip, wasn't it? And one overlaying, thing as far as, the story, the thing they were trying to, go with, the theme of this particular episode is that Marty Jannetty took the lit song My Own Worst Enemy pretty much to heart. Because I'm not saying that he wasn't screwed over with certain things, but he really was his own worst enemy. What a character. What a goddamn character. What's truth? What's fiction? What was he at fault for, and what was beyond his control? Some of those things were answered in this episode. It is the season finale of Dark Side of the Ring, and I will be perfectly honest, I was looking forward to this episode, and I enjoyed it, and I realized that Marty Jannetty really did fuck up a lot of chances, but I kind of expect a little more madness. I mean, it did dive into a little bit of the madness, but it also tried to tell a bit of a career arc for him. But nevertheless, the Rockers were a tremendous tag team. I mean, I loved them when I was a kid. I got to see a little bit of their stuff in the AWA because they were syndicated. I was able to go when I was babysat by a family friend. They had cable, and I was actually able to see the AWA when they were on ESPN, and it was kind of cool to see even as a kid, even though I was used to the glitz and glamour and the rock and wrestling connection, even though I didn't know what the fuck that was. It was cool, so I was like, oh, Marty, Shawn, oh, they're here now. As a kid, you just want to see everybody in the company that you first saw. And they were a great team. His ankle is totally fucked. I mean, his body parts are fucked in general. And then we get the talking heads. Al Snow, ask him how he feels about Jewish people. He said a lot of questionable things. That goddamn piece of shit. Anyway, what does everybody want? Head. Yeah, the styrofoam head, the mannequin head that was more over than Al Snow could ever hope to be. So, he was also Leif Cassidy. And Al Snow's a pretty good wrestler, and that's all he ever will be. He won't be anybody that drew any goddamn money. Oh, he's popular in ECW. Yeah, well, Heyman could get a lot of people over. Couldn't pay him all that well. So, Leland and George Mikulski, no relation. Obviously a relation. I believe they're two brothers that knew Marty and obviously have operated on him. I assume they weren't really mentioned in the rest of the thing. What is the pain level that Marty is going through on a 1 to 10 basis daily? 12 on a good day. And I can imagine. I mean, his ankle's totally fucked. I mean, totally goddamn fucked. In high school, he was a rebellious kid. In chemistry class, he mixed the blue and orange chemicals and blew the lab apart and everything and all that. And then they show Karen Walker, and now we know that it is possible for zombies to be reintroduced into the general population and that they can be taught certain lessons. Jesus goddamn Christ, what in the world has she seen and what in the world has happened to her? Everybody ages, but good goddamn Christ, some people age gracefully and others age like they were just, the poster child for a meth lab. Nevertheless, his lifelong friend, apparently somebody that he knew as a girl, during his time in wrestling, and that he tells some fanciful stories that hookers loved him from an early age, 12 or 13, would give him freebies, that he had a sex addiction, and then dated his guidance counselor there. And then that was just all glossed over. And Mean, it's funny too. This Mean Mike guy, I do actually remember disorderly conduct. I do remember them, sort of. He looks like he's taking care of himself. A Texas Hangman, I'm trying to remember what promotion I saw them in. But then we talk about Marty's career, or they talk about Marty's career, his debut in Mid-South in 1983, which was cool to see that stuff. The Central States footage, which I'm surprised still survived. And then he met Shawn and took him under his wing. Even though Marty, if you think about it, Marty was only in wrestling for, 2 years? Hey, help this young kid that was in wrestling like maybe a year or so after you. They had instant in-ring chemistry. I mean, it's hard to really find that with people. I mean, as far as wrestlers, whether it's an independent level or a grand level, the big companies, if you have chemistry with somebody and you can get along with them even halfway decently, you stick with it. It's hard to find somebody you really have great chemistry with. And they, they were working in Central States, they go to the AWA. They show Pat Tanaka as one of the talking heads, part of Bad Company in the Orient Express. I did not know that Pat Tanaka's dad was Duke Kiyomuka. That would explain why he was so talented. Duke Kiyomuka, by the way, worked in Texas and worked, I believe, all over the state. He was a Japanese fellow, obviously, based on the name. But that was a neat little tidbit that I didn't know. Brutus Beefcake and and his wife, who is apparently a human balloon animal, and Brutus Beefcake, what is going on with Brutus Beefcake? He's got less of a neck than Taz. What is going on with him? So, they worked all over. They were just bopping, between, they were, first it was Central States. They got an opportunity in the AWA. They had girls all over. They were saying a lot of partying with the girls. They briefly mentioned, Playboy Buddy Rose and Doug Summers. They had great goddamn matches. The problem is the AWA by 1986, especially after the Wrestle Rock Rumble, when the Road Warriors and others, basically when a lot of talents were leaving, when Henning left in 87 and Scott Hall and various others had started leaving. Yeah, they were the AWA Tag Team Champions, I believe, at the December 86 show that they did. It was Christmas night. And then they got fired, I believe, after the first day or week. It's always a little bit in the air tonight, oh Lord. Because they got in a bar fight and all this stuff, and Jimmy Jack Funk and I don't care, Jimmy Jack Funk and I don't care. And I can't help but say that every time I hear his name. I don't know why. But yeah, they got in a fight, and then they were And then we go to another little fanciful thing of God's amusement toy, GAT. And that's something that Marty feels when God gets bored. He just sends bolts of lightning at him and makes things fucked up for him because it's got to be someone else's fault, as everybody else is saying. And then they went to Continental, and I swear, now the Continental footage was cool to see. But yeah, there was nobody there at that point. I could have swore they went back to the AWA actually in 87. I believe they did. I could be wrong. But I believe they did. But that was totally skipped over. They went into WWE sometime in 88. And they actually had, they had Mania 5, Mania 6, Mania 7. And it was, Mania 5 was the Twin Towers. No, not the actual buildings, but Akeem, a.k.a. the One-Man Gang. There was not a rib on Dusty Rhodes. Why would anybody say that? And the Big Boss Man. And then they faced the Orient Express at number 6. And then they faced, I believe, Barbarian and Haku? Because it wasn't Barbarian and Warlord, because Warlord faced off against British Bulldog at Mania 7. So, yeah, they did all that stuff. They 3 straight WrestleManias, 1 win, because, of course, I think they lost by countout at Mania 6. Nevertheless, because they wrestled Pat Tanaka when he was part of Bad Company, and Pat Tanaka's wrestled quite. I don't know if Pat Tanaka's still wrestling or whatever. I mean, he seemed to be doing all right. Again, still throws me off that his dad was Duke Kiyomuka. I don't know why, but they skipped over the fact that they won the tag titles during Saturday Night's main event taping, easy for me to say, and the reason that title reign was totally just washed away is because the rope broke and the referee just froze. And instead, since they're taping, they could have fixed the rope and edited it. They didn't do that. The Rockers could have actually been champions heading into Mania 7. We might have gotten the Rockers against the Nasty Boys. And then Jimmy Hart would have, used his helmet and done that. And yeah. But no, instead we got that. They never won the tag titles. And then in late December of 1990, there was a guy named Chuck Austin. There was a jobber, enhancement talent that took the rocker dropper wrong. It was brutal footage to see. That wasn't Marty's fault. That wasn't Marty's fault. That was clearly Chuck, and I'm sorry to say it. Clearly Chuck was not ready to do something like that. I'm not saying that Marty wouldn't have taken liberties with people, but he had no reason to take liberties with an enhancement talent. Not that there weren't wrestlers that didn't, Buzz Sawyer and various others. But Marty was being safe, and Chuck decided basically to just take the move wrong. That's what he did. Marty probably was trying to show him or tell him how to take it. And Chuck either didn't want to listen or couldn't listen or was incapable of understanding basic movements. So then we get footage of the news reports and the trial, and the jury comes back after 20 minutes. This is after Dean Malenko had apparently showed up and they displayed how to do the rocker dropper properly. I'm trying to think of when Dean Malenko and Marty Jannetty would have been in the same territory. I don't know about Central State. I mean, I'm trying to think. I'm really trying to think in my head. Florida, possibly Florida, maybe Continental, maybe Dean Malenko was. I don't know. The whole point is, they did that. It was a $24 million announcement as a settlement, but it got bumped down to $10 million because that's what originally was asking for. And WWE was found negligent by a 90%, 5% to Chuck Austin because he was being stupid, and Marty 5%. So they were equally responsible and negligent. So Marty just had some of his royalties docked until that was paid back to the company, I guess. I don't know how much money Chuck Austin actually got. I don't know if he ended up getting $10 million or just a couple. But then Karen didn't like Shawn. Now, yes, Shawn egotistical, this kind of stuff. There was a lot of burying of Shawn for a few minutes, which Brett was right. But yeah, it's one thing for Marty to say, but for Karen, for this, death warmed over human being to say that. But then again, maybe she was on the road with him and looked like she had the entire road hit in her face. Okay, I'll stop that. But John had a bad attitude. And then Marty did a whole bunch of halcyons. And then Jimmy Snuka and Shawn Michaels showed up to basically clean him up and make sure he's alright. Then Marty and Shawn had their infamous blow up where Marty beat the shit out of Shawn after Shawn threw him out a window and all that stuff. And what stuff actually did or didn't happen. They had a blow up. Vince was going to split them up. Saw big things in Shawn. Didn't see a lot in Marty. I'm not even a Shawn defender, but I don't blame Vince for seeing more in Shawn. Could Shawn have been kissing Vince's ass more? Sure. Am I going to deny that happened? No. But Marty was a good hand. Marty was not an over-the-top personality. I mean, he wasn't. People say he was more the veteran. More the veteran by what? A couple years? A couple years. Shawn had displayed that he was flashier. And yes, Marty could do stuff. Marty could do some incredible shit, but Marty was already starting to get in trouble with stuff. And starting to display that maybe he wasn't, prepared for this kind of spot. Yes, Shawn kissed Vince's ass. Shawn got a lot of people buried because he was in Vince's ear or ass or whatever. But then they show the barbershop breakup and Janae tried to dive through the window to escape. Did you see that? What an act of cowardice. What was next for Marty? That was a great moment, by the way. That was something that stuck out in my mind at 11 goddamn years old. It still sticks in my mind. It's going to be in my mind until the day I die when my brain rots away, which probably won't be for too much longer, that is, because of brain injuries, but nevertheless. So I get all this stuff on video and everything and put it up on YouTube so I can talk about my love of wrestling while my brain's still attached. And then old Shawn Michaels interview footage where I swear, God, what was that, 2000? 2000, no, it was 2002 or 3. Probably 3? Because I'm trying to think about his hair. I'm trying to think about how long his hair was. Because I know he got saved, for all that's worth. Because religion, of course, you're just trading one addiction for another, but nevertheless. Then Marty, wrestling on Superstars, he's doing stuff, but then he's arrested for coke possession. He's dating various women. He's under house arrest for 6 months. Makes his return in late 92, early 93. That's a little flummox to my head. Sherry gets the mirror bashed in her face during the Sean freaking out and everything. That's when they split Sean and Sherry up. Marty was going to do more, but then Marty kept getting in trouble with the law. Marty did beat Sean for the Intercontinental Championship on the same Raw where Sean Waltman as the 1-2-3 Kid beat Scott Hall. But Marty would only hold it. He probably tried to sell it. No, he would only hold it for about 20 days, lose it on a house show. He would be out soon after, I believe. He would bop in and out, do his stuff. I want to say, did he appear at the 95 Rumble? I think he was in the 95 Rumble. And he was bopping in and out, but he was still getting in trouble with the law. There was the new Rockers, which the Friends feel was a way to mess with him, that maybe Sean was doing that. I'm not saying that Sean wasn't a dick back then. He admitted he was. Marty was lucky to have a fucking job at that point because Marty kept getting in trouble with the law because Marty screwed Marty. And then he took during a trip to India or a tour of India or something, he took a cop's car and ran into an Indian hotel, knocking a guy into a fountain. They had footage of that, which I've never seen. And then, that he was in WCW in 1998. At one point, he got a DUI that led to his license being suspended for 10 years. And his WCW run, I want to say he had an injured shoulder anyway, so even if he hadn't had that happen with his license, he was going to have issues. And he would bop around in the indie promotions. They showed some Heroes of Wrestling footage. Ooh, Heroes of Wrestling. Heroes of Wrestling. I revisited that just to add more snark to my original review, and that was fun. That was a fun pay-per-view. Go check out Heroes of Wrestling 1999, and if you think you've seen the worst wrestling show, any of these current ones, they ain't got shit on Heroes of Wrestling. So, Kim, the zombie walker, or Karen rather, Kim doesn't goddamn matter, had posters of Sean, and Marty would throw darts at him. That's how much Marty hated Sean. And then he wanted to end his life. Sean called him to come down to a ministry. They baptized Marty, or he baptized Marty. And he was saved from there. He lived a clean life for 3 weeks, and then he kept doing shit. But then he got an offer from WWE to do a Rockers reunion, and I do remember that episode. I do specifically remember that. That was spring or summer of 2005, because it was against La Resistance. Boy howdy, what a team that was. And he was offered a contract. It looked like he might actually be turning his life around, because he wasn't. Then he got in a fight with a stripper girlfriend and ended up in jail. That was out the window. Now, whether that contract would have lasted a year, whether he would have made close to $1 million or not, who goddamn knows? At that point, Marty Jannetty, I don't know if that really would have worked. He was in his 40s, but never. I think he was in his 40s. He might have been, well, yeah, he was in his 40s for sure, but I'm trying to think how deep into his 40s. But I do remember that him and Sean worked well as a team, and it seemed like things were good. And him and Sean are good now, and that's fine. That's great. You know what? Sean was able to alleviate all the stress and all the strife in his life. Except if you dive deep into the fact that religion's bullshit. But nevertheless, Marty keeps being his own worst enemy. And Beefcake and his balloon animal wife talk. And he kept wrestling with a bad ankle. We saw footage at an indie show in a high school gym or something, and he was limping around and everything. And then the Facebook rants. And look, I don't know what Facebook rants are true, what are not, but the daughter thing he says was a hack. I would hope so. I really would. Daughter or not, whatever, nobody deserves to deal with that, especially somebody that you might think of as a father figure saying that. But then the bowling alley confession, where he basically, and I mean, it's out there. The memes are out there. Audio clips are out there. Basically, he was 14 years old, he was 14 years old. He's behind, he was trying to buy weed from this guy that ran the shoe part. And then the guy took him outside and tried to do something to him in a car. Marty told him to fuck off. Guy tried to attack him in an alley, and Marty grabbed a rock and hit him in the head. Now, he says it's all hypothetical. Maybe he killed him, maybe he didn't. If it was self-defense, I don't fucking blame him. Never okay to do that to somebody. And Marty talks about the hypothetical nature and all that stuff, and his friends just wanted to be happy and healthy and all that, and whatnot and what have you. And that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it for the Marty Jannetty, the world according to Marty Jannetty. There were some cool parts and some weird parts, and I don't know what's true, what's not. And the bottom line is, I don't know what the next season of Dark Side of the Ring is going to end up being. I know what I'll end up doing. I'll end up watching it. I just hope they maybe pick a better tone for some of these, and they have more subjects to dive into, but maybe pick a better way to tell some of the stories, because some of the episodes are great. The other ones weren't so great. That being said, what do you think of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethland. I can't wait for Dark Side of the Ring Season 5. I miss it already. See you soon.